join us.
This is Mr. Black Terror, and you've just stepped into the darkest corner of the internet. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? What hour of the night is it? And don't forget to share this video with anyone who laughs at horror stories. Let them hear what real fear sounds like. My name is Sheriff Daniel Harker, Jefferson Valley County, Montana. I've served this department for a little over 14 winters, and I've seen the kind of nights that freeze your memory long before they freeze your bones. But nothing, not the drownings, not the avalanche victims, not the winter suicides, comes close to what happened the night I answered a welfare check on Garland Ridge Road. It was the first week of January. A heavy front had rolled down from the Canadian border, dropping the temperature to -21. The kind of cold that makes every sound feel brittle. Ice cracked under the cruiser tires like breaking glass. Radio towers hummed in the wind, and every old pine along the ridge seemed to lean just a little closer to the road, as if listening. At 11:42 p.m., dispatch called in a complaint from a woman named Abigail Reese, reporting she'd been unable to reach her elderly father for 2 days. He lived alone in a cabin 3 miles deep into Garland Ridge. She said he'd mentioned hearing someone walking around the house at night, though he had no neighbors for nearly 8 miles. Most folks out here chalk things like that up to wolves or deer, but the tone in her voice told me she didn't believe that. By the time I reached the old man's road, the snow was already waist-high along the shoulders. The wind kept sweeping across the headlights like white curtains. For half a second, I thought I saw footprints leading off the drive, long strides, wider than any human step, but a gust erased them before I could be sure. When I parked near the cabin, I noticed something unsettling. Every window was open. Every single one. In -20 weather. No lights. No smoke from the chimney. And no tire tracks that didn't belong to me. I radioed dispatch. Dispatch Harker. Arrived on scene. No sign of resident. Possible medical. Possible forced entry. Doors appear secure, but windows are fully open. The line crackled. Harker, copy. Backup 25 minutes. 25 minutes in this cold can feel like a lifetime. I approached the cabin, boots sinking into the powdery snow. The porch was old and sagging, and something dark smeared the boards. Not blood, but soot, like someone had dragged burnt wood across it. The front door wasn't locked, just slightly ajar, as if someone had closed it gently from the inside. When I stepped in, the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. My breath fogged out in thick clouds. The house smelled like damp ash and something strangely metallic. Mr. Reese? I called. Nothing. Just the wind squeezing through the open windows. I swept the flashlight across the living room. The table had been overturned, and the old man's coat lay in the center of the floor like he'd dropped it while running. 2 coffee mugs sat on the counter, one half full, the other still steaming. But that couldn't be right. The place felt like it hadn't been warm in hours. I moved down the hallway toward the bedroom. The door was wide open. The room looked untouched, bed neatly made, books stacked on the nightstand. But the closet door was cracked open, and something inside shifted just slightly in the dark. I steadied my voice. "Sir, it's the sheriff. Are you injured?" No answer, just another shift. Soft, deliberate. I placed a hand on my holster and stepped closer. That's when the smell hit me harder, metallic, like rusted water. And cold. Nothing living could survive in that closet. The air spilling out of it was colder than the air outside. I grabbed the doorknob and pulled. The closet was empty, but the back wall wasn't wood anymore. It looked melted, like heat had warped it, but the texture was wrong, uneven, almost like the ridges of a fingerprint, but enormous. The wall pulsed faintly as if something had brushed through it recently. Then I heard it. Voice behind me, a whisper. So cold. So cold. So cold. I spun around, but the room was empty, except the whisper didn't come from any direction. It came from the walls. The window frames started to creak, hard, like they were being pulled wider. The draft turned violent, whipping loose pages from a book across the floor. Then, from the living room, something heavy fell. I drew my firearm and moved slowly back down the hallway. The fireplace poker lay on the floor, rolling slightly. But it hadn't simply fallen. It was bowed, like something had bent it with impossible strength. Then I saw footprints in the soot leading toward the back. Bare feet. Small, like a child's, but the stride was wrong. Too long, too distorted. I followed them outside, flashlight cutting across the snow. The footprints led toward the tree line, then suddenly stopped, as if the person had been lifted straight into the air. And then the radio hissed violently. "Harker, static, behind you." I turned instantly. Gun raised, nothing, just wind and snow. But something had changed. The windows of the cabin were slamming shut one by one. Not closing, slamming, like the house was reacting. I stepped backward toward the cruiser when I saw movement in the upper window. The silhouette of a man, still, watching. I yelled out, "Mr. Reese!" The silhouette didn't move. Then his arm slowly lifted, pointing toward the woods behind me. I spun around again, scanning the tree line. Nothing but darkness between the pines, and when I looked back up, the silhouette was gone. I rushed inside. The house was empty. I swept every room twice. But the closet wall was back to normal. Just plain wood. No warped surface. No cold air leaking out. When backup arrived, they helped me search the ridge for hours. No sign of the old man. No prints. No disturbance. But here's the worst part. At sunrise, I found his footprints behind the cabin, leading into the woods. Then stopping abruptly, just like before. And beside them, a second set of prints appeared overnight. Not human. Long, deep, moving in a perfect circle around. Where he'd vanished, we never found him, but every January, exactly around 3 a.m., dispatch gets a single call from his old landline. Just breathing, slow, shivering, and a whisper in the background. So cold. I answer it every year. And every year, it hangs up the moment I say my name. As if whatever took him remembers me. As if it's waiting. My name's Sheriff Mark Danner, Winter Creek County, Montana. 34 years old, 6th year wearing the badge. And I've lived through enough snowstorms to know when the wind is just wind. And when it's carrying something else. This happened last winter. First week of January, the kind of cold that makes the world feel hollow inside. People say Montana winters are brutal. They're right. But no one warned me that sometimes the cold brings things with it, things that don't belong to this world. It started with a call at 2:47 a.m. Dispatch patched through a woman whispering. So softly I thought the line was breaking. "There's someone walking around my house," she said. "Not banging, not knocking, walking around. Name Linda Carver, 39, lived alone in an old A-frame cabin deep in Pine Ridge Forest. I threw on my coat, grabbed my flashlight, and headed out. The snow was coming down like ash, slow, soft, but constant. Driving those back roads in that weather felt like slipping through a white tunnel with no end. When I reached her property, her porch light flickered in the storm, cutting slices of yellow through the dark trees. Her cabin looked small compared to the towering pines swaying above it. I knocked softly, announcing, "Sheriff's office." She opened the door halfway, eyes wide. Face pale. "He's still out there," she whispered. I stepped inside and felt the heat from her wood stove. But she was shaking like she'd been standing outside barehanded. "All right," I said calmly. "Tell me exactly what you saw." "It wasn't a person," she said immediately. "I know what footprints look like." This wasn't. Right. Most calls in my line of work turn out to be raccoons or a drunk neighbor. But something about her voice, tight, terrified, made me take her seriously. I walked her property with my flashlight. The ground was covered with fresh snow, except for a trail leading around her cabin in an uneven loop. The prints were odd. Not boot prints, not animal prints. Long, narrow impressions spaced too far apart for any normal stride. Something had circled her home. When I followed the trail into the trees, it just stopped. No turning around, no fading, just ended, as if whatever made them had vanished straight up into the air. I radioed dispatch, asked for backup, but the storm knocked out most signals. I was on my own. When I returned to the house, Linda was standing at the window, staring into the tree line like she expected something to step out. "It wasn't the first time," she said quietly. "That got my attention. It's been coming around since Christmas Eve," she whispered. "Every night it circles the house. Sometimes I hear it breathing under my window." She wasn't trembling from the cold anymore. She was trembling from memory. I checked inside her home. Nothing was disturbed. Everything neat. That's when I heard it, something moving outside on the far side of the cabin. A slow, heavy drag. Then another. Then another. Linda's eyes widened. I whispered, "Stay here," and pulled my weapon. Through the window, the porch light flickered violently, like someone was walking beneath it. But there was no silhouette, no shadow, nothing visible. When I stepped outside, the cold hit me so sharply it felt personal, like the temperature dropped just for me. The air smelled wrong too, like wet bark and metal. Then I heard it behind me, a low, guttural exhale. I spun around, gun raised. Nothing. Only the forest shifting in the wind. But the footprints reappeared, one by one, pressed into fresh snow right in front of my eyes. No body making them. Just the prints. Something invisible was pacing toward me. I backed up the porch steps slowly. "Linda," I called, keeping my voice steady. "Lock the door." The prints stopped. And then they turned toward the window. I shouted, "Move away from the window." But before she could, the glass cracked, not shattered, not broken, cracked, as if a face was pressing against it from the outside. Pressing hard enough to spider the glass out. Linda screamed. I rushed inside, slamming the door against the freezing air. She backed up, hands over her mouth, staring at the imprint on the window. Not human. Too long. Too distorted. I tried calling for backup again, but the radio was just static. My phone had no signal. For the next 30 minutes, the thing circled the cabin. We could hear the snow crunching in slow, deliberate steps. Every few minutes, it stopped under a window, and the temperature in the room dropped so suddenly our breaths fogged the air. At 4:13 a.m., everything went silent. Not normal winter silence. Absolute silence, like the world held its breath. Then came the knock. One single knock on the front door. Not loud, but deep, heavy, like knuckles made of stone hitting wood. Linda whispered, "Mark, don't open it." I didn't plan to, but whatever was standing outside didn't move. It just stood there. Knock. A second one. My flashlight flickered and died. Knock. A third. I raised my gun, hands tight on the grip. Then it spoke, not in English. Not in any human tongue. A low, layered voice scraped through the door. The sound vibrated through the wood, through my bones. Like something ancient trying to form words it didn't fully understand. Linda collapsed to her knees, covering her ears. I grabbed her, dragged her to the back room, and we barricaded ourselves in. We waited. The thing moved around the house again slowly, intentionally. Then the footsteps faded into the forest. At sunrise, everything was normal again. No footprints, no cracks in the window, no signs anything had happened. But Linda's face was gray with exhaustion. She looked at me and whispered, "You believe me now?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I do." I filed my report with half the details left blank. No one would believe the truth. They never do. Linda packed up and left the county that afternoon. Last I heard, she moved to Arizona and refuses to live near forests again. As for me, sometimes on the coldest nights, when the wind shifts just right, I hear that same heavy knock in my dreams. And I wake up shivering, convinced something is standing outside my own window, waiting for me to notice, waiting to see if I'll be brave enough to open the door. I've worked winters in northern Wyoming for 15 years, but the storm that hit Pine Hollow County last January was the kind that makes even veteran deputies pray under their breath. Roads vanished under whiteout wind, power lines snapped like twigs, and the sheriff's office radio crackled with half-broken calls we couldn't trace. My name is Sheriff Owen Maddox. Pine Hollow County Sheriff's Department, badge number 2417. If you ever pass through this part of the country in winter, just remember snow doesn't hide things out here. It reveals them. That night, the storm had swallowed the entire valley. Snow hammered the windshield of my truck so violently the wipers looked useless, just lines cutting through an ocean of white. Dispatch barely had a signal, but one message had repeated through the static for almost 10 minutes. "He's outside. He keeps asking for me. Please, please hurry." A woman, frantic, crying, and the strangest part? The call wasn't coming from any registered landline or cell tower. Just a raw signal bouncing off the storm, like it didn't belong in any modern system. I followed what little I could trace of the coordinates, deep into the backwoods near the old timberline cabins. A place most locals avoid, even in good weather. Folks say that valley hears things at night. Voices that don't belong. By the time I reached cabin 6, the roof was buried in snow and the windows were iced over from the inside. My boots disappeared halfway with each step as I approached the porch. The storm's howl was so loud it drowned my breath, but there was something else mixed in a thin, broken voice. "Sheriff? Is someone out there?" The exact voice from the radio. My hand went to my holster. "Ma'am!" "Sheriff's Department." I yelled against the wind. "Are you inside?" No response. I tried the door. Unlocked. The smell hit instantly. Cold rot, like a freezer full of spoiled meat. My flashlight cut through a narrow living room that looked abandoned for decades. Peeling wallpaper, a fallen lamp, furniture covered in dust so thick it looked like it had snowed indoors too. But there were footprints on the floor. Bare footprints, leading deeper inside. That's when I heard her again, closer now, coming from the hallway. "Please, don't let him in." Her voice trembled like she was hiding under something. I moved slowly down the hall, my radio hissing in and out. "Maddox, do copy. That cabin isn't active." Then only static. I reached the last door. The footprints stopped here. "Ma'am," I said softly, "I need you to let me know where you are." The silence that followed wasn't normal silence. It felt aware, like the house was listening. I pushed the bedroom door open. Empty. A mattress lay on the floor, torn open like something had clawed its way out from inside. The closet door was slightly open. On instinct, I aimed my light at it. Something moved. I drew my weapon. "Pine Hollow Sheriff. Come out slowly, hands where I can see." The door creaked, and a woman stepped out. Late 20s, pale, shivering violently in a thin nightgown. Her hair was wet like she had just walked through the storm, but her eyes weren't right. Completely black, pupil to edge, like polished stones. "He's still here," she whispered. "Don't you hear him?" I didn't hear anything, but the temperature dropped so fast my breath fogged immediately. "Ma'am, I need you to come with me." Her head tilted slowly, unnaturally, almost like her neck wasn't supporting her, like something else was controlling the motion. "He wants you to see us." "Who's he?" I asked, but she didn't answer. Instead, she moved closer, dragging her feet across the wood floor. And the sound it made, God, it wasn't footsteps. It sounded like something wet being dragged. I stepped back. "Stop right there." She froze, then smiled, not a human smile. Too wide, too many teeth. Her cheeks stretched until the skin around her mouth looked ready to tear. "That's not going to help you, Sheriff." For a split second, the room around her darkened like the shadows were swelling. Something tall, massive, not human, formed behind her in the dark. A shape with shoulders that scraped the ceiling. And a face I couldn't fully see, just the suggestion of hollow eye sockets watching me. My flashlight flickered. The house creaked. Then the shape breathed in. The sound was wrong, deep, hunger. In audio form, I fired a warning shot into the floor. The entire cabin seemed to jerk, like it had flinched when I looked back at the woman. She was gone, but the footprints, the bare footprints, were now leading toward me. I ran. No shame, no hesitation. I turned and sprinted through the frozen hallway, through the living room, out into the blizzard. Behind me, I heard the cabin groan like something inside it was shifting. Waking up, when I reached my truck, the radio blasted to life with crystal clarity. "You should have stayed inside." "Sheriff." A man's voice, deep, mocking. Not hers. I floored the engine, tires spinning in the snow before catching traction. I didn't look back. I refused to look back. But in the rearview mirror, for a split second, I saw Cabin 6's door slowly close on its own. The next morning, in daylight and clear weather, I returned with 2 deputies. Cabin 6 didn't exist. Not like I saw it. Not like I entered it. The plot of land was nothing but snow and rotted foundation beams. No walls. No roof. No furniture. Nothing that could have supported a living person. But deep in the snow, Untouched by wind, we found footprints, bare footprints, leading into the woods and stopping abruptly. As if the person had vanished mid-step. We still get the radio signal sometimes. Always at night. Always the same voice. Please. He's outside. Please, please hurry. But no matter how we trace it, it always leads to one place. Cabin 6. A cabin that hasn't stood for over 40 years.